Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Night. I am Brian Smith. I'm with Andrew Johnson, contributor at my site, Inside the Nights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. Andrew, welcome once again to the show. We are going to talk a little bit about the receiver depth chart for the Knights and the difficult to understand linebacker depth chart for the Knights, especially after Tatum Bethune has jettisoned and headed off to Tallahassee. We'll get to that second. We're going to start out with receivers. Any opening thoughts about the wide receiver position? I mean, there's speed, that's for sure. But what are your overall thoughts?
Like we were talking about before we even came on, they lost Titus, a big receiver. They lost Caden, another bigger receiver. So right now we're just looking at Jalen, Ryan, and Amari, three speedy receivers. So they're going to need a guy to complement those guys, like we talked about before we came on.
Well, the other key is, just to add to that, is Brandon Johnson's 11 touchdowns have departed. I mean, that was their boundary receiver. And just to set the table and explain, when you run a three-wide set the way Gus does, and his offense is pretty concrete, the boundary guy is a bigger guy that almost always has single coverage. Brandon didn't have a lot of success at Tennessee, but he was a savvy receiver, kept working, went from 1 touchdown to 11. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And 1 touchdown in 4 years and 11 in one season with the Knights. I mean, that's impressive. He had 38 catches, 558 yards, averaged almost 15 yards a catch. I mean, those are big numbers. And then, of course, the most important statistic, he scored 11 times.
Yeah.
They don't have anybody, for lack of a better term, that is on the current roster with Titus leaving. I thought Titus would slide over to that spot possibly. It was, at least quote unquote an option. Who's it going to be? Is Jalen Griffin going to play some? I have no idea.
Or is it the Jordan Johnson kid? Another bigger guy. I know, but
let me handle the Jordan Johnson thing. I'm a Notre Dame fan by trade, and I followed his recruitment to Notre Dame. He was recruited by everybody. Alabama offered him. That's a kid that has a lot of talent, but he's very immature off the field. That's been the knock at Notre Dame and here, I guess. I mean, did he even catch a pass this year?
I don't know.
No, he's not on that list. And I'll throw it. I might as well just throw it up here just to show it on the screen. This is concerning. Like he's not necessarily a boundary guy, but he could play it at least in a pinch. But he didn't catch a pass. And here are the guys just across the board. When your second leading receiver is Johnson, and again, he's a good player, but he didn't even have the second number of catches, like half as many as the lead guy in Ryan O'Keefe. That's a problem. Now, Jalen is a little goofy because he was hurt. I don't really count his stats, but they just relied too much on O'Keefe. Right. And then Holler didn't have a great year in terms of numbers. He didn't even average 2 catches a game. He dropped some key passes. Tight end is an extension of that. They got to get better there.
Tight end. We'll talk about that one day too, because that's
I'm waiting to do that later because there's nothing to talk about until they get a grad transfer. Literally.
Yeah.
It's an extension of your running game to have a tight end you can throw to in the flat, but you need to be able to get down the field some.
Yeah.
And I mean, Alec, he averaged 10 yards a catch. He's not a big play threat. He's a good athlete and he plays hard, but
great blocker too. He can block.
Oh yeah. He fits what they want, but he played too many snaps this year.
Yeah. Okay.
That leads in again to the boundary spot. Not only do we not know who's going to start, who will be the backup? You can't play every snap. I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. With all the vertical routes that position runs, there's no way.
If somebody goes down.
Oh, that's what I mean. Who the heck's going to play it? So,
like we were talking about, Nate Craig Myers is probably going to be one of the most important returns for the wide receiver group. So when he makes an announcement, we'll know where we can go from there. They're going to need another transfer or a JUCO guy.
Yeah, the other option, and I'm not saying he's going to play a lot, but I'm extremely high on him, is Tyler Griffin out of Georgia. He's give or take 200 pounds, 6'4", can absolutely jump out of the gym. He was a basketball player until this year. Phenomenal athlete. Because he played in Southeast Georgia, he didn't get the same attention. Like I go up to the greater Atlanta area all the time, and I'm going to go back up again here pretty soon to scout kids. But everybody wants to do one-stop shopping in recruiting. They just go to one spot, like they go to Fort Lauderdale, they go to Miami, and they're done.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, like where you live in Polk, kind of get overlooked. You know what I mean? It's just it's more
That's how it
expensive.
goes. That's how it goes with recruiting.
Yeah, yeah. But this kid's underrated, and UCF probably would not have gotten this kid if he lived in Atlanta. That's my opinion.
Right.
He would have gotten some. I mean, he turned down some Power 5 offers to go to UCF, but he would have. I think he could play at Georgia. That's just my opinion.
I mean, 6'4", 200 pounds, dunking on people's heads.
Yeah. That's what I mean. This isn't just a normal guy. When I watched this film, I'm like, okay, what am I missing? I literally went back and watched it again, and I was convinced. I'm like, they just got to steal. There's no way around it. They flat out got to steal. And Travis talked about at the press conference before the Florida Bowl game in the Gasparilla Bowl how they do their own evaluations, which I truly appreciate. That is a great example of that being true, because a lot of schools, and I know this firsthand, they get very nervous about taking kids that the recruiting services don't rank because they are so darn concerned about perception.
Yep.
It's dumb.
Ranking.
If you take that player, go out there and win, nobody cares.
Nobody. Yep. 2-star, 1-star, none.
Yeah, but did he dunk on somebody's head? Yay or nay? That's if you go look up.
That's what we're looking for. Did he dunk on somebody's head?
Yeah. I mean, like he takes it all. His length is insane. He's like a spider. He played running back at 6'4". They do anything they could to get him the ball. He played free safety. He was a physical kid. Sometimes he played near the line like a linebacker.
Oh man.
You know, he's got to find a way to get on the field, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get off bump coverage, etc. There's a lot of technical aspects that UCF will need to work with. That's fine, but right now, he's as good an option as they have, and that's very concerning to me, because if you do not have a boundary receiver that can run and get by guys because he can get off bump, and then he's got to be able to block. UCF is a run-first offense.
Right?
Is he ready for that? And how much can he take the attrition of playing every snap against top competition in the college game is iffy. So to me, they need two transfers. Barring one of the guys on the roster that we're looking at here surprising us, which I didn't see Brandon Johnson doing anything this year, and he killed it. So what do I know?
Let me ask you something, Brian, because I'm sure people that's watching are thinking this as well. What do you think it was? Was it something on the inside going on with the coaches, with Titus leaving? Because I felt like he would have been that guy to fill in Brandon Johnson's role as a bigger receiver. Was there something going on, or was it the quarterback position? Because there's a question mark at quarterback.
I think you hit part of it. He's really good friends with Dylan Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan's why he came to UCF. Mm-hmm. When he left, the door was open. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I find out stuff. It could be Notre Dame, it could be Oklahoma, it could be Alabama. A coach made an error based on what the family and or the player think. Fair or not, perception on their side is all that matters now. With that first transfer, you only get one time to do it. But when you enter the portal, you get immediate eligibility at another institution. Kids have no patience. Right. So if you tick off somebody, it's bye-bye.
Yeah.
Would Titus have left if he had to sit out? Different conversation. He may still have. I don't know where the hell he's going, but you remember, he's from Hawaii.
Exactly.
So there's no place that's home for him. He's not going to play for Hawaii. They're not any good. He's not going to have an easy fit anywhere. But I could see him going to UCLA or Cal or something like that.
Wherever he has a connection.
Yeah, I mean, were there more Samoan kids, stuff like that, more Hawaiian kids? He'd probably be more comfy. Maybe he goes to BYU. They get a lot of those kids. Utah,
yeah, they got a lot of
Colorado or something. But again, he was connected to Dylan, and Dylan left.
Right.
That's not Gus Malzahn's fault.
No, I think, like you said, hit it on the head when we talk about the quarterback position being a question mark, because I felt like maybe that's why Boobie Curry decided to come and kind of like leave prematurely, because maybe he's seen that quarterback position. It's a question mark. You got Mikey Thomas, or we're going to bring in a guy. I feel like some transfer to wide receivers may be thrown off a little bit. How do you feel?
With that happening and stopping and UCF never posting it, I would say that he wanted to come and they weren't so sure.
Yeah, there you go. You got that.
I don't know the kid, But I remember seeing the post, and I said, "Well, let me
Yeah.
go check out Gus's Twitter."
No
You know,
booms.
Gus. Yeah, and when it was blank, I'm like, "Uh-oh."
Uh-oh.
I had a
Nope.
podcast to do, so I said, "Well, I'll leave this alone. I'll come back in an hour." And then every other reporter had said, "Hey, this ain't happening."
Mm.
And I'm like, "I don't even want to know."
Yeah.
I did not investigate. I did not send a text. He ain't coming. We're good. Sometimes it's better to be left alone. I don't know what it was. Maybe I'll find out this summer
Yeah.
in passing, talking to somebody. But
I
I hope
just
the kid finds a place wherever it
right.
is.
I just did some thinking. I was like, hey, I don't know. That quarterback position is a question mark, man. It might
Oh
show
yeah, I mean,
some bigger
if
name wide receivers that's looking to find a home and they
yeah,
see that question mark. They're like, got a good
yeah.
run game, but who's gonna throw me the ball?
Well, to your point, there's a certain young man that is from Plant City that I'm sure you're familiar with, who's leaving Oklahoma.
Yep, I just
I
saw
mean,
that.
he would walk in the door. I mean, he plays the spots that O'Keefe and Jalen play, but they rotate guys like crazy anyway.
Anyway,
Mario Williams is a freaking dog, and he
yep.
was the best slot receiver in the country for the class of 2021. He played well at Oklahoma. Could he come back, play 2 years for the Knights, and then turn pro? Yes.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done. And I'm not saying anything, but if you think about the state of Florida, Florida State's quarterback situation stinks. UCF's is just up in the air. We need to go through spring. It's just an if. Miami's is legit. The Van Dyke kid,
That Van Dyke kid, hey,
he's
they
going
found
to get
that guy.
paid. He's gonna get paid. UCF, iffy, but USF, they've got a guy that can run a lot. He's got to prove to me, Timmy's got to prove to me he can read a defense, but he's got the arm strength.
Timmy, I like him as a core. He's a good guy. But
Can you win big games when
nah.
you can't run outside the pocket, though? I still think he's an 8-4 quarterback until he figures out the path. You got to be able to make throws from the pocket. Once you move up a level and the running game's taken away, that's the difference between like those top 12 teams. When you play against Georgia, you're not running the ball consistently.
Nah.
You're not. McLean would be broken in half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just true. You are not going to get outside the pocket. Desmond Ritter is a freak, and they beat the crap out of him at Alabama. Will Anderson, I just put up a picture of Will tackling Desmond Ritter on my article about the national title game.
Almost snapped him in half.
Yeah, I mean, he has 17 and a half sacks and 33 and a half tackles for loss.
That's an
insane.
NFL guy.
And he did that in the Southeastern Conference's Western Division. By far the most difficult. There is no second place in all of college. It's not even close. He's the best all-around player in the game. That's why I worry about that. And I'm sure Mario understands that. He wants to go somewhere. They're going to throw the ball around. And I would imagine Mario and several other guys like you're talking about that are in the portal. I just used him because I know him. They're not picking until they know the quarterback at school X, Y, and Z. A certain quarterback that's at Oklahoma that's in the portal, he could still go back to Oklahoma. If he does, Mario, I bet you goes to Oklahoma. But what if he goes to USC? What if he goes to Clemson? Now, I have no idea where he's going.
Right.
The trickle down effect for receiver in the transfer portal starts with the quarterback position, because why in the hell would you pick a school if you don't know who the quarterback is and you're a receiver? That's a very poor decision. It's just the way it is. UCF is going to have to wait a little bit, but the good news is if you look back at this past year, like Bryson Armstrong, Big Cat, several really good players didn't join the fold until after spring ball.
Yeah.
Big Cat's obviously a really good player, but he didn't go through spring. That's detrimental to most guys. He's good enough, it didn't matter, but most guys need that. Timing with receiver is so important, and the spring semester is starting. They're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because the only thing they're going to be able to do, the coaches, for people out there, they are not allowed to coach the guys when they run 7-on-7 and all that junk in the summer. The guys that are around are the strength and conditioning staff. You're not allowed. I mean, you can say hi to a kid or whatever. You cannot coach them at all. It is forbidden. And that's a problem because no two positions are connected more than quarterback and receiver. Mm-hmm. So if you bring in a guy in May or whatever, he comes in for summer, that's okay. But you need those reps in spring. Every rep matters. So I'm very concerned about that. And you could make an argument offensively beyond quarterback, obviously. It's the biggest concern. O-line, I think, is in pretty good shape. Tight end would be the other concern. but they've got to find a boundary. Got to.
So let's say Nate Craig Myers does come back. Who's your guys that you have going out on the field to start the season?
Well, I mean, even if all he does is block, he's an experienced player and he's physically strong enough to handle some of the run game. Something that most fans don't understand, and this is just from talking to receiver coaches for years. And I know I knew Urban Meyer well when he was at Notre Dame and other places. He wouldn't put a guy on the field unless he was willing to block, because 2nd down and 8 sucks. And oftentimes the difference between a 2-yard run and a 60-yard run is the perimeter. When the corner, how often do you see a corner fly up and just chop a running back and he didn't expect it? Well, that's because the idiot at receiver didn't know who the hell he was supposed to block.
Yeah.
Your running back takes an extra shot, and if it was blocked right, he scores.
Yep.
I mean, it's little things like that. Gus is the same way. I mean, you must be a perimeter blocker, and that's one of the concerns I have about Tyler Griffin. I mean, good player, but he's a freshman. Yeah. Is he going to understand all the little things? It's hard. Oh, it's
and they run a lot of wide receiver screens as well.
So. UCF is probably the most wide receiver screen heavy team in the country. Yeah. That'll diminish a little bit now that Mikey, quote unquote, has more experience, but he's not like Dan Marino, quick release cannon for an arm guy. No. They're not going to be throwing whole shots, on seam passes and stuff all of a sudden. There are only a handful of guys in college football that can really do that. They're still going to be more of a dink and dunk, draw you in and then throw you over because they use play action. It's an old school theme that always works. If Nate came back, I think he would start. He may only catch 20 balls on the year. I don't know. Again, I thought Brandon wouldn't do much this year, and he scored 11 touchdowns. What do I know? How's that chemistry? Obviously, Brandon figured out the chemistry not only with Dylan, but with Mikey. Yep. So kudos to him. He put in the work, man. Sometimes you see those leaps as a senior, and it's just you cannot predict it. You cannot predict it. But even if they knew Nate was coming back, conservatively, you would need one transfer that you think can compete for the job. And that's not easy, because having a true freshman there, like let's say Nate plays, but he twists his ankle and he misses 4 games. Yeah. You can't have a freshman playing 65 snaps at that spot and expect it to go well. It's just not a realistic thing. Even if it was like a Jai Hall came out of the Tampa area this year and he's at Alabama, kind of buried on the depth chart. He's not ready for that either. It's hard.
It's hard as a freshman. And yeah. I got need a transfer as pretty much the only note for the wide receiver group. Now, let me ask you, how do you like the Quan Lee kid? He's kind of like a Jalen Robinson type wide receiver, but do you think he'll get in and make an impact?
2 things with Quan. I know him very well. He's a very hot-headed kid, and he's out to prove the world wrong. For whatever reason, he's just got a chip on his shoulder the size of New York City. If he can mature some, he'll make an impact. But Gus isn't going to put up with his theatrics. That's just open-ended. But from a physical standpoint, he's a play day 1 guy.
Okay.
So he could have 40 catches or he could have 4. He is the biggest question mark in the freshman class, regardless of position. Talent's there, though.
And you've met this kid, right?
Oh, I know him well, very, very well. Yeah, I've seen him play a half dozen times.
Yeah, for the people that's watching, Quan Lee's a guy that can come in and make an impact at wide receiver day 1. Yeah,
he played at Buell-Holtz High School in Gainesville, and one of the reasons he has a chip, the Gators did not offer. It's not that he necessarily wanted to go there, but the fact that they did not offer ticked him off. And one of the last times that I saw him before the regular, as a matter of fact, it was the last time, was July. They had Friday Night Lights inside the stadium at UF, and I went up, and it just players from around the country. He wasn't invited, but he just showed up and said, "Screw you guys." Went out and played and just kicked the crap out of everybody in one-on-ones. I mean, these are guys. These are SEC, ACC recruits. I didn't see him lose a rep. Now, were his theatrics on the field good? Not so much. He has to calm down. It's not an option. Gus won't put up with it. He's a very conservative guy. Very. Are they going to be able to do that in 6 months?
Yeah.
Before they really start working out in the summer and kind of finalizing? I doubt it.
Right.
But he's also talented.
Yeah, he has the talent, and he's played against the competition like you just.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he has no fear.
Battle tested.
He has no fear. I've seen him go against Travis
Yeah.
Hunter, who's the best player in the country.
Okay.
He is a competitor. I just hope that they can figure out a way to get him the ball. And here's the one thing.
Mhm.
He is a natural catcher of the ball, over his shoulder, to the side, ball back. He has incredible hand-eye
Hands.
coordination. Oh, yeah, just natural. He
Hands.
catches the ball over his shoulder, which
There
is
you
the
go.
hardest catch, very
Yeah.
naturally. Most guys suck at it. I don't care how good a receiver they are.
Mhm.
He's a really good punt returner, and
Mhm.
his lateral quickness is that of a player that could be in the NFL. You would like if he was on playing for the Eagles right now, just as the punt returner, he'd be fine. That's how
Kind of-
athletic he is.
Just to piggyback off the point we made yesterday about the slot position, he can be one of those guys that can get
Oh, absolutely.
carries out of the slot position, along with RJ, with Ryan, Jalen. Kind of that UCF fast offense where they would just pew, pew.
He's the exact same thing that Ryan O'Keefe is.
Yeah, man.
With a much larger chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
The other thing with him is he's played running back, and he's a physical kid. He can jump into the hole, make a guy miss, but if there's nothing there, he'll grind out a few yards. Hugh Holtz didn't use him a ton there because they didn't want to beat him up, but he would run the ball some.
Yeah.
And, when they ran fakes to him, everybody in the stadium thought he had the ball and somebody would be open. He's a very dynamic kid that once he gets into the flat or into an open area, the first guy, I don't care if it's an NFL DB, is going to struggle to get him down. He has that kind of make you miss ability. To that end, Xavier Townsend, that lives where I do here in Tampa, he played at Berkeley Prep. He played more running back because there was a power offense. I know Dominic Sio really well, known him over 20 years. He's a head coach at Berkeley. And he's a very old school coach. But that kid, even though that he's like identical size to Quan, he is one of the most physical kids in the state of Florida at $175. It's incredible. And he still has the ability, like Quan, catch the ball over his shoulder. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. He can catch screens. He'll block. Does not care. He's the kind of kid from a mentality standpoint that would be a Marine. That's the wall I need to go through.
Discipline.
Oh,
physical.
He's polar opposite personality.
Right.
Very quiet, just A to B, does what he has to do, and that's it.
Let me ask you, Brian. Man, how does Gus Malzahn and Chip Lindsey balance all of these electric, speedy guys? And do they try to mimic the 2017 UCF fast offense to where they're just firing away, scoring 40-yard touchdown? You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds great, but to do that, you need a quarterback that is a complete master of your offense. And we have no idea who the quarterback. If the quarterback works out, they have all the skill guys around them. We need a little help at tight end there in the boundary, but the speed at UCF is SEC flat out. And then you got Bowser who can catch and block and run and all that, and then Johnny who they can run out. So all of that is there. If they figure out quarterback, for the most part, it can be the same. But if you remember, those UCF teams had a 200-pound or 190-pound receiver that was a strong guy that could make a jump ball catch. That's something that, again, we talked about the boundary. They don't have it
boundary guy
yet. And we don't know what the circumstance is going to be at tight end in terms of depth. Any injury right now looks bad, but I'm sure they know more about it because they're recruiting kids in the portal. I have no freaking clue who UCF is going to add at either spot, but they have no choice. They got a good tight end coming in, but that's still only a couple of guys. You need 4 or 5. They need 2 tight ends to transfer in. Yeah.
Spring's coming up. They need to do it soon, man, so they can get that connection with whoever the quarterback's going to be.
You got to remember, it's not the spring practice. It's the enrollment. This is an institution of higher learning. You have to enroll into school now.
Man.
So they may not be able to do what they really need to, and it just is what it is. You inherit the roster when you take over a job, and they did pretty good last year, and they went 9-4. This will be the final cleansing, if you will, and then I think 2023 when they join the Big 12, they're not going to be where they want to be, but they'll be much more balanced.
And I was doing some researching last night, and a kid from Auburn just decided to enter the transfer portal. His name's Kobe Hudson. He was a #1 receiver on the Tigers offense, so. Maybe
that's intriguing. How big is he? How big is he?
He's more of a slot. He's another slot guy. It's just
I just don't.
I don't know where you're going to find a boundary guy with this amount of time they have.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not an easy task. No. They might do some different things. They might move Holler out, and I'm not kidding. There's like
That might have to be.
Michigan did some different things with Jake Butt before he went to the NFL. Notre Dame's done some different things. When you have a special tight end, he's not a tight end. If he can really
gotta use him. You gotta use him.
And plus that's a bigger guy to block. Yeah. Alec is not afraid to block. I would say right now there's a pretty good chance he's going to play some boundary.
Yeah.
And is that what they want to do? No. But at the same time, you got to have bodies that are big.
You're going to have to take some heat off of Jalen and Ryan because they're either going to put a safety over the top or they're going to double one of them and make you
well, they're going to play different cat and mouse games with that. Plus, they're also not big guys. They're not going to take the same physical abuse as like the Jameson. Was it Jameson Williams for Alabama? He's a pretty good sized kid. It's different when you get hit over and over again. So, yeah, I'm concerned about that. All right. We obviously have hit this pretty hard. The circumstance in regards to linebacker is a little bit different. I'm pulling that up here.
Let's get that up.
Tatum Bethune had 108 tackles, and he just went to Tallahassee.
Yep.
There's no way around it. That is a very bad deal for UCF. There's not a nice way to say it. He led the team in tackles. You got Bryson Armstrong.
Yep.
He would have been the leader in tackle, but he hurt his knee. He's out of eligibility. That's a pretty big hit, my friend.
That's still your leading tackle is right there.
Yep. So, Big Cat's out. So 3 out of your top 5 tacklers.
Yep. Man.
Jeremiah will probably lead them in tackles next year if I had to guess.
That's what I'm looking at right now. Jeremiah, John Powell.
Yeah. Terrence Lewis is a guy that is, I'm sure he's going to, quote unquote, make it happen, if you will.
Yeah.
But he's one guy.
Number 1 linebacker out of high school.
Again, in terms of just physical talent, we're talking about a guy that was the best player in the country, regardless of position.
Yeah.
He's got to calm down. He needs to figure it out, etc. But you cannot teach the physical skills that he has. The other guy, I want to make sure we talk about this because I'm not sure how they're going to use him exactly. Katie McDaniel is a kid that's from South Central part of Georgia, really highly coveted recruit, went to Kentucky, didn't work out. He's almost identical from the same area too as Big Cat Bryant. And he's probably going to play the same spot. He's 6'2", 240, 245. He played a little bit at Kentucky, but sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yep.
He's got 2 years of eligibility. He fits the profile. I watched his film from high school. I could see why he was an SEC recruit. That's the kind of kid that UCF needs to figure out. In a way, he's similar to Johnson at receiver this past year. He has the ability to make plays. You got to figure out what gets him over the top. Now, Johnson went from 1 touchdown in 4 years to 11 in 1. I'm not saying this kid's going to have 12 sacks this next season. But stating that he's an edge rusher and you can never have enough.
And you need that.
Yeah. So
gone.
Yeah. In certain situations, they might even move him because they play a 3-man line part of the time. They run a multiple.
Outside linebacker.
He can play outside linebacker, but he can also put his hand in the dirt. That helps your linebacker. He's not a natural linebacker, but that helps your linebackers. You must have guys in front of you that are at least good enough to sniff the NFL if you're going to have a high-level defense year after year.
Yep.
D-line never goes out of style. You can never have enough of them. Recruit them until they say no. And this is the kind of kid that UCF can make a difference with. They got Terrence, and for people that don't know, he was literally offered by every school in the South and several other schools. Went to Maryland, didn't work out. Had an ACL injury, unfortunately. He's transferring to UCF. He had a really good relationship with the Auburn staff that is now at UCF. T. Will knows him well. I think he's going to do pretty well. And
is he an outside guy or middle? Is he a middle linebacker?
Oh no, he's a speedy. He doesn't even really have a position.
Yeah,
he's just a freak athlete that he has an incredible knack for timing his shot through the hole to blitz or just to try to take down the running back. He's a risk taker. Mm-hmm. They'll probably have to rein him in a little bit, but he's so athletic. He's been able to get away with anything. There was a kid about a year and a half ago that was a really good receiver in Miami where Terrence is from. who said, Terrence was talking about how he's really good in coverage or whatever. This kid challenged him, and Terrence went up against a kid that's much smaller than him. The kid never got off the line of scrimmage.
Physical.
Yeah. His lateral ability is like a corner, but he's an inside linebacker. It's insane. Excuse me. But if you put him there, that's great. But who's besides him and Jeremiah, who's going to be there? We don't think that Powell has got eligibility left. We're not sure how that works.
He played in the Gasparilla Bowl. I mean, he has some experience, but it's like,
He played in a couple other games too.
Yeah, he had a good game previously in the season. So
he had 28 tackles. But I mean, if you just look at the list up there, I mean,
Tatum was that leader, man. Tatum was that guy.
Oh yeah,
all over the field.
Yeah, the next guy at linebacker, unless I'm missing somebody.
Bryson, and then Jeremiah is the next guy.
Yeah, and then Eric Gilliard, who transferred.
Eric Gilliard's gone.
They need conservatively 2 more inside linebackers to join.
Yeah, I got
That's just how I look at it. Now they've got kids coming in, but they're not ready to take that kind of pounding.
Not day one.
No, just for the record, and I know both these kids well. They're Central Florida kids. Cameron Moore is about 205. He's going to be a will or an overhang linebacker. And TJ Bullard's not even 200 pounds. He's about $190, something like that. He plays at Berkeley Prep, same place Xavier Townsend plays. He's a heat-seeking missile, but he's $190. He's a strong safety right now inside.
Yeah.
His waist is so small.
Yeah, those kids will need a spring and a summer workout before they're not ready to go yet.
No, and barring something else, I don't think so. Berkeley is extremely high-end school. They don't let kids enroll early. So he's not even going to be here. Now, Moore, I mean, Sanford Seminoles this year, run-of-the-mill high school. I'm assuming he's enrolling early. I forget which kids are. I've got a list somewhere. But even so, if he gets up to 215, he'd be okay, and he can help. Yeah. But I don't think he's going to play 50 snaps a game. If you need him for 10 to 20, and he'll play special teams.
I mean, it's kind of like the wide receiver position, though, because if Jeremiah goes down or Powell goes down, they're going to have to throw one of those guys in the fire early. So they're going to have this offseason is going to be a key for a linebacker and wide receiver position.
Oh, it's ridiculous. There's no doubt. So anyway, to make a long story short, they need extra bodies that they currently don't have. They know that. This is not – there's not much for me to talk about.
No. We can look at it right here.
I mean,
Tatum's going. That's it. That's all we got.
They're your tackle leaders. They're all leaving. They're all leaving. I mean, Jeremiah is it. I've never seen a depth chart go from really good to really bad any faster than UCF's did in terms of just volume.
Man.
But that's the transfer portal era. I mean, Eric Gilliard, if he came back this next year, would be the starter. He was ticked off that he wasn't the starter this year, and he left. Let's just cut to we could read between the line.
Yeah.
You know what? It is what it is. He lost out. That's their opinion. I can't do nothing about it. I don't even know where he's going, but there aren't many opportunities like this one. UCF's defense was pretty decent this year when they were healthy. Yeah, they had some obvious issues when they weren't healthy, but somebody's going to join. And Travis is a very good recruiter. If you can't have fun around Travis, then you're not a very good human being. They're going to get a couple guys. I just think that it's more likely to happen after spring. Mm-hmm. Again, school starts. I mean, did it start this week or is it
Monday, tomorrow?
Yeah. So unless there's something announced today, and you could enroll a few days late. It's no big deal. It's this week, or we're going to be waiting until May, pretty much. Yeah, April, May. Right. So UCF is in a scenario where they need conservatively 2 guys. And that doesn't even count, and maybe they'll adjust it, the quote-unquote night position, the overhang linebacker, the combo safety one. That's not an easy spot to play. Bryson Armstrong was a great fit for it.
Yeah.
You're not going to find that guy every year. You're just not. Yeah. So I'm very concerned about linebacker, and it's ironic because it was one of the strengths of this year's team. And we were all in the booth for games talking about, not sure about how we're going to defend this guy at receiver and all. The DBs took a big step forward, and they're all pretty much back.
Dustin Hodges.
But if you're running the ball for 5.5 yards a carry because the linebackers are inexperienced, don't know where they're going, you mitigate talent other places, corner in particular. So they have to find, you don't have to get the next great linebacker going into the NFL draft, but you need a really good guy that can play right away. And you need another guy that's at least serviceable. It can be a part of it. Jeremiah and Terrence, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch.
Yeah. Then you lose Big Cat. Then you lose Big Cat coming off the edge, man. So that's gonna.
Well, we'll talk about this later. My number one player, I'll just throw this out here. Spoiler alert. I'm going to do a countdown this summer. And I already told him to his face after the Gasparilla Bowl this. From like player 50 to player number 1 on the UCF roster, we need to see who's going to be on the roster. I know better than to start it any earlier than June because there's transfer portal. Makes it impossible, man. It does. Trayvon Morris-Brash is my number 1 player on the roster next year based on position need. Everybody needs pass rushers. Everybody. He was the highest recruited player that's on the roster. He really came on. He's experienced. He'll be a senior, and he knows it's money time. Yeah. I know that he's trying to get to the NFL. He's going to be the guy. That's going to help your other linebackers, but he's going to get doubled more. His stats may not be great, but that's because everybody's, sliding protection his way, chipping him with a running back, but that opens up for other players. Will Anderson at Alabama is the most freaky guy in the country. Yeah. They still chip him and stuff, but they rotate guys in. He doesn't always play a ton of snaps. UCF's got Josh Seliscar too. He's a hell of a football player. So, they still have edge guys. Josh is good. Now they need like Landon Woodson and some other guys to take at least a little bit more of a step up. And that helps your linebackers too. Exactly. And then you got KD that's transferring in. So I think DN / that out. They rotate 4-3 and 3-4 defense kind of stuff, 3-3-5. But that edge defender, they should be good, and that'll help the linebackers because if you steal the edge,
is Cam Good coming back to fill that middle of the defensive line?
Should be.
I think I should be back.
He should be.
Anthony's coming back. Montalvo will be back. So the defensive lines.
Hester's back. Yeah, they should be good there.
Linebacker.
It's just linebacker, man.
Man.
No team goes from one season to the next. Everybody coming back. That's not how it works.
Nah.
But the way they lost 2 transfers. They would be set for Bear if it wasn't for that. But part of the reason they were good this year's transfer because they got Bryson Armstrong. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're going to lose sometimes. UCF is no different.
And you got Terrence Lewis, man. So
yeah,
we'll have to see what he can do.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition. We're going to do some more previews later this week, but with my luck, as soon as I do a preview here with Andrew, somebody will transfer in. That tends to be how it works. Hey, man, I'm just real.
That's how it is. It's the new free agency of college football. That's how we say it.
We actually might wait towards the end of the week, like Thursday.
Yeah.
Because Monday or Tuesday, there could be a guy talking to Gus, maybe takes a midweek visit. I just know, like you said, school starts tomorrow. They can get late enroll, within the first week, but then you just got to wait.
Yep. So this first week will be interesting.
Potentially. Some like Florida State.
Yeah.
Same deal. I'm sure they're starting school. They're working the phones right now too. It's any state school in Dixie or wherever is going back right now. Man, they're hitting it hard.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we'll be back to see you soon. Take care.